Planet Vegeta would be destroyed in exactly 29 years, every man, woman, and child erased in a single moment. But on this day, none of that mattered, because today, a prince was born whose power level was unlike anything they'd ever seen. This is his story. It began in a distant corner of the universe, on a world unlike any other. Planet Vegeta, named after its king, was a harsh and unforgiving place. The planet's crimson sky hung heavy over barren landscapes, where jagged mountains pierced through thick clouds and vast wastelands stretched beyond the horizon. This was no paradise. This was a world built for warriors. The inhabitants of this planet were called Saiyans, a race of beings whose very existence revolved around combat. They were born with tails, brown and furry, wrapped around their waists like a badge of their heritage. But their most remarkable feature wasn't visible to the eye. It lived within their blood, their cells, their very essence. The Saiyans grew stronger after every battle, especially after coming close to death. They were nature's perfect warriors, designed for conquest. Among the Saiyans, there existed a hierarchy as rigid as the armor they wore. At the very top sat the royal family, and it was into this lineage that a child was born who would one day shake the foundations of the universe itself. His name was Vegeta, named after his father, King Vegeta, ruler of all Saiyans. The day of Prince Vegeta's birth was not marked by celebration or joy as one might expect for royalty. The Saiyans were not a people of sentiment. Instead, his arrival was noted with cold efficiency. In the medical facility where Saiyan infants were taken immediately after birth, scientists placed the newborn prince into an incubation pod, monitoring his power level with their scanning devices. The numbers that appeared on their screens made them pause. The child's power level was extraordinary for a newborn, far exceeding normal Saiyan infants. Even as a baby, Vegeta was different. While other Saiyan children cried and flailed, the prince seemed to observe the world around him with unusual intensity. His dark eyes, sharp even then, took in everything. It was as if he understood, even at that young age, that he was destined for something greater. King Vegeta himself came to view his son, standing before the incubation pod, with his arms crossed, his crimson cape draped over his shoulders. The king was an imposing figure, tall and broad-shouldered, with a widow's peak of black hair that stood upright in true Saiyan fashion. He looked upon his son not with fatherly warmth, but with the calculating gaze of a ruler assessing an asset. The Saiyan king had plans for his son. Prince Vegeta would be trained from the moment he could walk. He would learn what it meant to be Saiyan royalty, to carry the pride of their warrior race. But there was something the king knew, something that cast a shadow over even this moment. Planet Vegeta, for all its strength, was not free. High above the planet, in the dark void of space, a vast empire stretched across the galaxies. This empire belonged to Frieza, a being whose power was so immense that even the mighty Saiyans bowed before him. Frieza was a tyrant, a galactic emperor who bought and sold planets like commodities. His business was simple. He would send warriors to planets, have them eliminate the native populations, and then settle these worlds to the highest bidder. The Saiyans, with their natural love of battle and their incredible strength, made perfect soldiers for Frieza's army. But this arrangement was not a partnership of equals. The Saiyans were subjects, servants, little more than slaves dressed up with military ranks. King Vegeta understood this bitter truth, and it filled him with a rage he had to carefully conceal. As Prince Vegeta grew from an infant into a young child, he was kept primarily on Planet Vegeta within the royal palace. The palace itself was a fortress, built from dark stone and metal, its architecture reflecting the Saiyan preference for function over beauty. Here, The young prince took his first steps, spoke his first words, and began his training. Saiyan children were not coddled. While other races in the universe might protect their young and allow them years of innocent play, Saiyan children were introduced to combat almost as soon as they could stand. For Prince Vegeta, this was even more intense. His father insisted that he train harder than any other Saiyan child, that he push himself beyond normal limits. The training rooms in the royal palace were equipped with gravity manipulators, devices that could increase the gravitational pull, making every movement more difficult, every action requiring more strength. Young Vegeta, barely able to walk steadily in normal gravity, was placed in rooms where the gravity was doubled, then tripled. He would fall, struggle, his small body trembling with effort, but he would rise again. Always, he would rise. King Vegeta watched these training sessions from observation windows, his expression unreadable. Sometimes the king would enter the training room himself, towering over his small son. The lessons he taught were harsh and clear. Weakness was unacceptable, mercy was for fools, and pride was the only thing that truly mattered. A Saiyan, especially a Saiyan prince, must never bow his head in genuine submission to anyone. "You are royalty," King Vegeta would tell his son, his voice hard as the armor he wore. "Never forget what that means. Our blood is superior. Our strength is greater. One day, boy, you will be the strongest Saiyan who has ever lived." Young Vegeta absorbed these words like a sponge absorbing water. Pride became the cornerstone of his identity, the foundation upon which everything else would be built. He was a prince. He was elite. He was better than others, and he would prove it through strength. As the months passed and young Vegeta grew stronger, he began to understand the world beyond the palace walls. Planet Vegeta was a busy place, with Saiyan warriors constantly departing for missions across the galaxy and returning with reports of conquered worlds. The planet's cities, if they could be called that, were functional and militaristic, filled with training facilities, medical centers for treating battle injuries, and landing pads for the spherical space pods that Saiyans used for interstellar travel. But even at his young age, Vegeta began to notice something that filled him with a confusing mixture of emotions. When the ships from Frieza's forces arrived, every Saiyan, including his father, showed deference. They bowed. They took orders. The mighty King Vegeta, who seemed invincible to young Vegeta, would lower his head before Frieza's messengers. This contradiction gnawed at the young prince. He was taught that Saiyans were the superior race, that royalty bowed to no one, yet here was the evidence that someone held power over even his father. The first time Vegeta witnessed his father kneeling before one of Frieza's higher-ranking soldiers, something crystallized inside the boy's heart. It wasn't just pride that grew there, but also a burning resentment, a determination that one day he would be strong enough that no one, absolutely no one, would have authority over him. Young Vegeta's training intensified. By the time he was 4 years old, an age when children of other races would be playing with toys and learning basic skills, Vegeta was already a formidable fighter. He could fire energy blasts from his hands, move faster than the human eye could track, and his strength was enough to shatter stone with his bare fists. His power level, constantly monitored by the scanning devices, was rising at an unprecedented rate. It was around this time that Vegeta was introduced to other young Saiyans who would train alongside him. Among them was Nappa, who despite being much older, was assigned to serve the young prince. Nappa was large even by Saiyan standards, muscular and tall, with a widow's peak similar to the royal family, though he was not of royal blood. From their first meeting, the hierarchy was clear. Nappa would be Vegeta's subordinate, his servant, his protector if needed. "You will address the prince with proper respect," King Vegeta instructed Nappa. his voice leaving no room for discussion. His life is worth more than yours. His potential exceeds yours. You exist to serve him. Vegeta, standing beside his father, straightened his posture, his young face set in an expression of superiority. This was the natural order of things. He was the prince, and others were beneath him. But fate had other plans for the Saiyan race, plans that were already in motion, driven by fear and paranoia in the heart of the very tyrant who ruled over them. Frieza, despite his overwhelming power, possessed one trait that might have seemed strange for someone so mighty. He was afraid. Deep in his calculating mind, the Galactic Emperor had heard legends, whispers of an ancient Saiyan myth. The legend spoke of a transformation, a state of being called the Super Saiyan. According to the legend, once every 1,000 years, a Saiyan would arise with power so tremendous that they could challenge even the gods. Their hair would turn golden, their power would multiply 50 times over, and they would become unstoppable. Frieza dismissed much of the legend as primitive mythology, but he couldn't dismiss the potential threat the Saiyans represented. They grew stronger with every battle. Their power levels increased naturally over time, and worst of all, they were numerous and unified under King Vegeta. What if the Saiyans decided to rebel? What if this Super Saiyan legend had even a grain of truth to it? The Emperor made his decision with cold efficiency. The Saiyans had become too dangerous to keep alive. He would eliminate them, all of them, in one swift action. He would destroy their entire planet. King Vegeta, through his network of spies and informants within Frieza's organization, began to hear rumors of the Tyrant's intentions. The king faced an impossible choice. He could do nothing and watch his race be destroyed, or he could act, rebel, against Frieza, and likely still watch his race be destroyed, but at least die fighting. In his throne room, surrounded by his most trusted warriors, King Vegeta made his decision. They would strike first. They would take the fight to Frieza's ship, attack the Tyrant directly, and hope that somehow, some way, they could kill him before he could retaliate against their planet. But before King Vegeta could launch his desperate rebellion, he had to make arrangements for his son. Prince Vegeta, still very young, was the future of the Saiyan race. If the king failed in his mission, if Frieza survived and destroyed Planet Vegeta, at least the prince might live on. Under the pretense of sending the young prince on a training mission, King Vegeta arranged for Vegeta to be sent off-world along with Nappa and a few other Saiyans. The prince, excited for what he believed was his first real mission, entered the space pod eagerly, not understanding that his father was saying goodbye. King Vegeta stood at the launch pad, watching as his son's pod prepared for departure. For just a moment, the hard mask of the Saiyan King cracked, and something almost like sadness crossed his features. But he pushed it away. Saiyans did not dwell on emotion. They acted. "Make me proud, my son," the king whispered, though Vegeta could not hear him through the sealed pod. "Survive, grow strong, and never forget who you are." The space pod carrying young Vegeta rocketed away from Planet Vegeta, its trajectory taking it toward a distant world designated for conquest. Inside the cramped spherical vessel, Vegeta sat in the curved seat, his tail wrapped around his waist, his small hands gripping the armrests as the planet of his birth grew smaller in the pod's viewing window. He had no idea he would never see his homeworld again. King Vegeta's rebellion was as brave as it was futile. The Saiyan King gathered his most elite warriors, several hundred of the strongest Saiyans alive, and launched an assault on Frieza's massive ship. They fought their way through corridors filled with Frieza's soldiers, blasting through defenses, driven by desperation and pride. Finally, King Vegeta himself reached Frieza's throne room. The Tyrant sat relaxed in his hover chair, a slight smirk on his pale face as the Saiyan King entered. Frieza's appearance was deceptive. He was small, shorter than King Vegeta, with a slender frame that seemed almost delicate. But looks meant nothing in the universe of warriors. Power was what mattered, and Frieza possessed power beyond the Saiyan King's comprehension. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted mere seconds. King Vegeta attacked with everything he had, putting all of his royal strength, all of his warrior's rage, into one devastating assault. Frieza destroyed him without even rising from his chair, using just one hand to deflect the king's attacks and then, almost casually, to end his life. The rebellion was over before it truly began. Frieza's soldiers eliminated the rest of the Saiyan attackers, and then the Emperor turned his attention to the planet below. Frieza's ship descended through Planet Vegeta's crimson atmosphere, emerging above the planet's surface where thousands of Saiyans looked up at the massive vessel. Some, the smarter ones, realized what was about to happen and felt the cold grip of fear. Others, too proud or too foolish, simply stared in confusion. Frieza emerged from his ship, floating in the sky above the planet, his white and purple form hovering effortlessly in the air. He raised one finger, a single finger, and at its tip, a small orange sphere of energy began to form. The sphere grew, expanding rapidly, crackling with devastating power. It grew larger than buildings, larger than mountains, a miniature sun of pure destructive force. "Goodbye, monkeys," Frieza said, his voice cold and devoid of emotion. He released the energy sphere, sending it plummeting toward the planet's surface. The moment it made contact, Planet Vegeta's fate was sealed. The energy tore through the planet's crust, burning down to its core. For a brief moment, nothing seemed to happen, and the entire planet convulsed. From space, the death of Planet Vegeta was almost beautiful in its terrible way. The planet bulged, expanded, its surface splitting apart as the core exploded. Light burst from the cracks, overwhelming and brilliant. Then, with a final cataclysmic eruption, Planet Vegeta exploded, fragmenting into countless pieces that scattered into the void of space. In mere seconds, the homeworld of the Saiyan race ceased to exist. Billions of lives were extinguished in an instant. An entire civilization gone. Young Vegeta, traveling through space in his pod, knew nothing of this yet. The pod's communication system had been deliberately disabled as part of King Vegeta's plan to keep his son safe. The prince slept in the pod's automated stasis mode, unaware that he had just become one of the last pure-blooded Saiyans in the entire universe. When Vegeta's pod finally reached its destination and the young prince emerged, he was met not with news of his successful first mission, but with a transmission from Frieza's forces. The message was brief and devastating. Planet Vegeta had been destroyed by a meteor strike. The Saiyan race was extinct. King Vegeta was dead. Vegeta, standing in the ruins of the alien city he had been sent to conquer, listened to this message with his fists clenched at his sides. He was perhaps 5 years old, alone on an alien world, and he had just learned that everything he knew was gone. His planet, his people, his father, all of it erased from existence. A human child receiving such news might have collapsed in grief, might have cried until they had no tears left. But Vegeta was not human. He was Saiyan. He was a prince, and the lessons his father had drilled into him ran deep. Weakness was unacceptable. Emotion was a liability. Pride was everything. Vegeta's face hardened into a mask of cold determination. His hands unclenched, he stood straighter, forcing his young shoulders back, his head high. If he was one of the last Saiyans, then he would have to be the best Saiyan. If his father was gone, then he would have to surpass his father. And if Frieza claimed it was a meteor that destroyed his planet, well, Vegeta was young, but he wasn't stupid. Even at that age, a dark suspicion planted itself in Vegeta's mind. But what could he do? He was powerful for a child, yes, but Frieza was something else entirely. The smart thing, the only thing, was to survive, to grow stronger, to wait. A Frieza Force ship arrived to collect the young prince, and Vegeta boarded it without protest. From that day forward, his life changed completely. He was no longer the prince of a mighty warrior race. He was an orphan, one of the last of his kind, forced to serve the very being who had likely murdered his entire race. Life aboard Frieza's ships was nothing like the royal palace of Planet Vegeta. The corridors were cold and sterile, lit by harsh white lights that never dimmed. The air had a recycled quality to it, and everything smelled faintly of metal and ozone. For young Vegeta, these ships became his new home, though he refused to ever truly think of them that way. This was not home. This was a cage. The Frieza Force was a massive military organization composed of countless alien species from across the galaxy. There were tall, reptilian soldiers, short, technological experts, massive brutes, and cunning strategists. They all wore similar armor, the standard Frieza Force battle suits with shoulder guards and chest protection. The armor came in various colors, denoting rank and division, but all served the same purpose: to mark the wearer as property of Frieza. Vegeta was given his own armor, sized for his small frame. White and gold, with blue sections, it was modified slightly to denote his status as one of Frieza's special operatives. Looking at himself in the reflective surfaces of the ship, Vegeta felt a mixture of emotions he couldn't fully process. The armor was practical, well-designed, and it enhanced his natural abilities. But it also marked him as a servant. Frieza, despite having destroyed the Saiyan race, kept a handful of Saiyans alive. They were too useful to completely eliminate. Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz, another young Saiyan who had been off-world during the planet's destruction, became part of Frieza's forces. They were valuable assets, especially Vegeta, whose power level continued to climb at a rate that impressed even Frieza's elite warriors. The young prince was put to work immediately. Frieza's empire didn't waste resources, and a Saiyan warrior, even a young one, was a powerful resource. Vegeta was sent on missions to various planets, sometimes alone, sometimes with Nappa and Raditz. His task was always the same: eliminate the native population so the planet could be sold. These missions became Vegeta's new training ground. Each planet presented different challenges, different warriors, different climates and conditions. Vegeta approached each mission with cold efficiency. He didn't take pleasure in the destruction like some Saiyans might have. Instead, he treated each conquest as a test, a way to measure his growing strength. On a planet with purple skies and crystalline cities, Vegeta faced warriors who could manipulate electricity. They were tall, blue-skinned beings who thought their elemental powers made them superior. Vegeta proved them wrong, moving too fast for their lightning to strike him, his own energy attacks shattering their crystal structures and overwhelming their defenses. He was 7 years old. On a world covered in dense jungles, Vegeta hunted down a race of predatory hunters who could blend into their environment, becoming nearly invisible. They ambushed him, attacked from the shadows, used every advantage their homeworld gave them. Vegeta burned the entire jungle to ash, removing their advantage, and defeated them through sheer, overwhelming power. He was 8 years old. With each mission, each battle, each victory, Vegeta grew stronger. The Saiyan ability to increase in power after every fight, especially after recovering from near-death experiences, meant that Vegeta's strength climbed steadily. But more than his physical power, his mind was changing too. The young prince built walls around his emotions, brick by brick, battle by battle. He couldn't afford to feel guilt about the civilizations he destroyed. He couldn't allow himself to mourn his lost home or his dead father. He couldn't show weakness, fear, or doubt, so he buried all of it deep inside, behind layers of pride and arrogance, behind a mask of cold superiority. To the other members of the Frieza Force, Vegeta became known as difficult and arrogant. He refused to socialize with the other soldiers, treating them with barely concealed contempt. He took orders from Frieza and his top commanders, but he made it clear through his attitude that he did so out of necessity, not respect. He was better than them, he believed, and one day he would be strong enough that he wouldn't have to pretend otherwise. Frieza found the young Saiyan prince's attitude amusing. The Emperor would sometimes summon Vegeta to his throne room, not for any particular reason, but simply to observe him. Frieza understood pride, understood the value of keeping someone close who harbored resentment. It made them predictable. As long as Vegeta believed he needed to serve Frieza to survive, as long as the prince knew he wasn't strong enough to rebel, he would remain useful. During one such summons, when Vegeta was around 9 years old, Frieza addressed him directly, his voice smooth and mocking. "Tell me, little prince, do you hate me?" Vegeta stood before the Emperor's throne, his jaw clenched, his tail wrapped tightly around his waist. Every instinct screamed at him to attack, to make Frieza pay for what he had done. But he wasn't stupid. He could sense Frieza's power, and it was like standing before a sun, vast and overwhelming. "I serve you, Lord Frieza," Vegeta responded, his young voice carefully controlled. Frieza smiled, a thin, cruel expression. "How diplomatic. You are learning. That's good. You Saiyans are so much more useful when you learn your place." The Emperor waved his hand dismissively, and Vegeta was escorted out. The young prince walked through the corridors of the ship, his fists clenched so tightly that his nails drew blood from his palms. The rage inside him was a living thing, burning hotter than any energy blast. But he forced it down, forced it into that deep place where he kept everything he couldn't afford to feel. One day, he promised himself, one day he would be strong enough. One day he would make Frieza pay. But that day was not today. So Vegeta did what he had to do. He survived. He followed orders. He completed missions. And most importantly, he trained. Every spare moment Vegeta had was devoted to increasing his strength. He would spend hours in the training rooms of Frieza's ships, pushing his body to its limits and beyond. He practiced his energy attacks until he could fire them with perfect precision. He honed his speed until he could move faster than most warriors could perceive. He tested himself in the gravity chambers, constantly increasing the gravitational pressure, making his body adapt to crushing weight, so that when he fought in normal gravity, he would be that much faster, that much stronger. Nappa and Raditz trained as well, but not with the same intensity, the same desperate drive that pushed Vegeta. Nappa, older and already quite powerful, seemed content with his current strength. Raditz, closer to Vegeta's age, trained regularly, but lacked the prince's focus. To both of them, Vegeta showed little warmth. They were Saiyans, yes, and that meant something, but they were also beneath him in status, and increasingly in power. Years passed, and the young prince grew into a teenager, then a young adult. Vegeta's body developed the lean, powerful musculature characteristic of Saiyan warriors. His face lost its childish softness, becoming angular and sharp, with eyes that held a perpetual intensity. His hair remained unchanged, a testament to Saiyan genetics. Their hair never grew or changed from birth, standing upright in a distinctive flame-like style. By his late teens, Vegeta had become one of the most powerful warriors in Frieza's entire force. His power level had climbed into the tens of thousands, a number that shocked even the veteran warriors who had served Frieza for decades. Missions that would require entire squadrons were given to Vegeta alone, and he completed them with ruthless efficiency. His reputation grew throughout the Empire. The Saiyan Prince, they called him, though never to his face unless they wanted to risk his wrath. Some feared him. Others resented him. A few respected him. Vegeta cared about none of these opinions. The only thing that mattered was strength, and by that measure, he was succeeding. But being powerful in Frieza's army came with its own complications. The more successful Vegeta became, the more attention he drew from Frieza's elite warriors, particularly Zarbon and Dodoria, the Emperor's right-hand soldiers. Zarbon was beautiful in an alien way, with long green hair and elegant features. He was vain and refined, preferring to keep his hands clean when possible. But beneath that pretty exterior lurked a monster. Zarbon could transform, becoming a hideous reptilian beast with power that multiplied several times over. He was cunning, intelligent, and utterly loyal to Frieza. Dodoria, in contrast, was a pink, bulbous creature covered in spikes, massive and brutal. He preferred direct violence and took pleasure in destruction in a way that Vegeta found distasteful. Dodoria was a blunt instrument, but an effective one. Both of these elite warriors saw Vegeta as a threat. The Saiyan Prince was rising too fast, becoming too powerful, drawing too much of Frieza's attention. They would never move against Vegeta directly, not without Frieza's permission, but they made their resentment known in subtle ways. They would take credit for victories Vegeta achieved. They would assign him the most dangerous missions, hoping he would fail or die. They would mock the Saiyan race, referring to them as monkeys, a slur that never failed to make Vegeta's blood boil. Vegeta endured it all with gritted teeth. He had learned patience, a trait that didn't come naturally to Saiyans. He understood that in Frieza's empire, one had to pick their battles carefully. So he swallowed his pride just enough to survive, all while continuing to grow stronger. During this period of his life, Vegeta became obsessed with the legend of the Super Saiyan. He had heard whispers of it as a child on Planet Vegeta, but dismissed it as myth. However, as he grew older and learned more about why Frieza had destroyed his race, the legend took on new significance. If the Super Saiyan was real, if a Saiyan could truly transform into a being powerful enough to challenge Frieza, then that was the answer. That was the path to freedom, to revenge, to everything Vegeta wanted. He researched what little information existed about the legend. Most of it was fragmentary, contradictory, more fairy tale than fact. A Super Saiyan would have golden hair, emerald eyes, and power that eclipsed anything the universe had seen. They would be a warrior of pure heart, awakened by great need. Vegeta rejected the part about pure heart. That was obviously primitive mythology. The transformation had to be about power, about pushing beyond normal Saiyan limits. And if anyone could achieve it, it would be him. He was the prince of all Saiyans, the elite of the elite. The Super Saiyan transformation was his birthright. This belief became the core of Vegeta's identity. He trained even harder, pushed himself even further, always chasing that golden transformation that would put him beyond Frieza's reach. But no matter how strong he became, no matter how many battles he won, the transformation eluded him. Meanwhile, life in Frieza's service continued. Vegeta was sent to countless worlds, saw countless civilizations fall. He became hardened to it, numb to the destruction. Each mission was just another stepping stone to greater power. The faces of those he defeated blurred together, meaningless obstacles in his path. But occasionally, Something would happen that reminded Vegeta he was still, beneath all the armor and arrogance, capable of feeling something other than rage and pride. On one mission to a planet called Namek, years before the events that would later draw him back there, Vegeta encountered a Namekian village. The Namekians were a peaceful species, green-skinned with antennae, possessing abilities that were more mystical than martial. Frieza wanted information about something the Namekians possessed, objects called Dragon Balls, which could supposedly grant wishes. Vegeta, accompanied by a squad of Frieza's soldiers, attacked the village. The Namekians fought back, but they were outmatched. As Vegeta prepared to destroy the village's elder, a young Namekian child stepped between them, trembling but defiant, protecting the elder with his own body. For just a moment, Vegeta hesitated. The image reminded him of something, some buried memory of courage in the face of impossible odds. But the moment passed. He had a mission. He had orders. And more importantly, he had walls around his heart that he couldn't afford to let crack. The mission was completed. The information was extracted. Vegeta and his squad left the planet, and the young prince didn't allow himself to think about it again. By the time Vegeta reached his late 20s, he had become everything his father had wanted him to be, and perhaps more than King Vegeta could have imagined. His power level exceeded 30,000, a number that placed him among the absolute elite of the universe's warriors. He had survived countless battles, conquered hundreds of worlds, and carved out a reputation as one of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. But he was still in a cage, still serving Frieza, still waiting for his moment. Vegeta's team had solidified by this point. Nappa remained his constant companion, loyal to the prince out of both duty and genuine respect. The large Saiyan had grown even more powerful over the years, though he would never match Vegeta's strength. Raditz, the third surviving Saiyan, was weaker than both of them, but still formidable by the standards of most warriors. Together, they were often sent on missions as a unit, 3 of the last Saiyans in existence, working for the being who had destroyed their race. It was during this time that Vegeta first heard a name that would come to define much of his future: Kakarot. Raditz had discovered that his younger brother, sent to a distant planet called Earth as an infant before Planet Vegeta's destruction, had survived. The planet Earth was considered insignificant, a backwater world in a remote part of the galaxy, barely worthy of notice. Raditz had decided to travel there to retrieve his brother, expecting to find a Saiyan warrior who would join their ranks. Vegeta had little interest in this mission initially. Another low-level Saiyan warrior, even if he had survived all these years, would be of minimal value. Earth's power levels were laughably low, according to all reports. The entire mission seemed beneath their notice. "Go if you want," Vegeta told Raditz, his tone dismissive. "Retrieve your brother, but don't waste time. We have actual missions to complete." Raditz departed for Earth, and Vegeta thought nothing more of it. He and Nappa continued their work for Frieza, completing a mission on a planet with red sand and toxic atmosphere. It was routine, boring even, the kind of mission Vegeta could complete in his sleep. Then the news came. Raditz was dead. The information was transmitted through the scouters, the devices that Frieza's forces used to measure power levels and communicate across distances. Raditz's life signs had disappeared. He had been killed on Earth. Vegeta's first reaction was disbelief. Earth was a primitive world with pathetically low power levels. How could Raditz, a Saiyan warrior, have been killed there? But the scouter data didn't lie. Raditz was gone. When more details emerged, Vegeta's disbelief transformed into something else: interest. Raditz had been killed by 2 warriors working together. One was his own brother, Kakarot, though the Earthlings apparently called him Goku. The other was a Namekian who had somehow ended up on Earth. But what caught Vegeta's attention wasn't the fact of Raditz's death, it was how he died. The Namekian had used a special attack, a focused beam of energy that had killed both Raditz and Kakarot, piercing through them both at once. But here was the interesting part. According to the scouter data that Raditz had transmitted before his death, these warriors had mentioned something called Dragon Balls. Earth had its own set of Dragon Balls, objects that could grant wishes, just like the ones on Namek that Frieza had been interested in. Vegeta stood in the main chamber of the ship, staring at the data on the screen, his mind working through the implications. Dragon Balls that could grant any wish. If that was true, if such objects really existed on Earth, then the possibilities were extraordinary. Nappa lumbered over, reading the same data. The fools killed Raditz. Should we go to Earth and eliminate them, my prince? Vegeta was quiet for a long moment, his sharp mind calculating. If the Dragon Balls were real, wishes could be granted. Immortality, perhaps. With immortality, he could continue growing stronger forever. He could eventually surpass Frieza without fear of death. He could take his revenge and face no consequences. But there was another consideration. According to the transmitted data, when a person died on Earth, their spirit went to some kind of afterlife, and there was a possibility of resurrection using these Dragon Balls. Raditz had mentioned it before his scouter went dead, which meant Kakarot, his brother, would likely be brought back to life. A Saiyan warrior on Earth, a Saiyan who had apparently been raised on that primitive planet and yet had become strong enough to help kill Raditz. Vegeta found himself curious about this Kakarot. What kind of Saiyan was he? Had he retained his Saiyan nature, or had living among the weak Earthlings made him soft? We're going to Earth, Vegeta decided, his voice firm. Nappa grinned, cracking his knuckles. Finally, some real action. Those Earth weaklings won't know what hit them. But Vegeta held up a hand. We won't go immediately. According to the data, it takes time to gather these Dragon Balls. The Earthlings will attempt to revive their fallen warriors, including Kakarot. Let them do so. Let them gather the Dragon Balls and prepare for us. It will save us the trouble of searching for the objects ourselves. It was a calculated decision, but also a confident one. Vegeta didn't fear the Earth warriors, no matter how strong they might become in a year's time. His power was on a completely different level. The wait would give him time to train even more, to push his strength even higher. We'll give them 1 year, Vegeta continued, his lips curving into a cold smile. 1 year to prepare, to gather the Dragon Balls, to ready their defenses, and then we'll descend on their planet, take the Dragon Balls, wish for immortality, and eliminate anyone who stands in our way. For the first time in years, Vegeta felt something close to excitement. This wouldn't be just another mission for Frieza. This would be for himself, for his own goals, his own ambitions. The Dragon Balls represented a path to power that didn't depend on serving anyone. They represented freedom. And there was another element, one that Vegeta barely acknowledged even to himself. He wanted to meet this Kakarot, this Saiyan, raised on Earth. He wanted to measure himself against another of his race, to prove his superiority, to show that royal blood truly was superior to low-class Saiyan stock. The course was set. In 1 year, Vegeta and Nappa would travel to Earth. They would claim the Dragon Balls, and nothing, absolutely nothing, would stand in their way. As their ship turned toward a new heading, beginning the journey that would eventually take them to that small, blue planet, Vegeta stood before the viewport, staring out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there was Kakarot. And somewhere in his future was the power he had been seeking his entire life. The Saiyan Prince was coming. The year that followed was a period of intense preparation for Vegeta. He and Nappa continued to carry out missions for Frieza, maintaining the appearance of loyal soldiers. But Vegeta's mind was always elsewhere, always focused on Earth and the Dragon Balls that awaited him there. During this time, Vegeta trained with a fervor that surprised even Nappa, who had known the prince for most of his life. The gravity chambers aboard their ship ran constantly, pushed to their maximum settings. Vegeta would spend days inside these chambers, moving, fighting invisible opponents, firing energy blasts, all while crushed under gravitational pressure that would have pulverized ordinary beings into paste. The Saiyan Prince was meticulous in his preparation. He analyzed what little data existed about Earth and its warriors. Their power levels, according to the scouter readings from Raditz's mission, had been low, pathetically so. But then they had managed to kill a Saiyan warrior. That contradiction needed explanation, and Vegeta believed he had found it. The Earthlings apparently could suppress and then raise their power levels at will, concentrating their energy for brief, intense bursts. It was a technique that most warriors in the universe didn't bother with. Why hide your power when you could simply be stronger? But Vegeta recognized the tactical advantage. If an opponent couldn't accurately measure your strength, they might underestimate you, make mistakes, leave themselves vulnerable. It was clever, Vegeta admitted to himself, but ultimately it wouldn't matter. Even if these Earth warriors could double or triple their power for short periods, the gap between them and a Saiyan elite like himself was simply too vast to overcome. Still, Vegeta was nothing if not thorough. He pushed his power level higher, breaking through 35,000, then approaching 40,000. Each increase required more effort, more pain, more time spent recovering from self-imposed injuries that would trigger the Saiyan ability to grow stronger after near-death experiences. Nappa watched his prince's obsessive training with a mixture of admiration and concern. The large Saiyan knew better than to question Vegeta's methods, but even he could see that something had changed. The prince had always been driven, always hungry for power, but now there was an edge to it, an urgency that hadn't been there before. What Nappa didn't fully understand was that Vegeta saw Earth as more than just another conquest. It was an opportunity, perhaps his only opportunity, to break free from Frieza's control. Immortality through the Dragon Balls meant he could eventually, inevitably, surpass the Emperor. Time would become his ally instead of his enemy. He could train for decades, centuries even, until he was strong enough to make Frieza pay for every humiliation, every order, every moment of servitude. As the year drew to a close, Vegeta and Nappa made their final preparations. They loaded their space pods with supplies, set the coordinates for Earth, and departed without informing Frieza or his commanders of their true intentions. As far as the Empire knew, they were heading to a remote sector to handle a minor insurgency. By the time anyone realized they had gone to Earth, it would be too late. The journey through space took several weeks. The pods were cramped and uncomfortable, but Saiyans were accustomed to such conditions. Vegeta spent much of the journey in the pod's sleep mode, conserving his energy. Though his dreams were filled with visions of golden transformations and ultimate power. When the pods finally entered Earth's atmosphere, Vegeta was awake and alert, his dark eyes watching through the viewing screen as the planet grew larger. It was a beautiful world, he noted with detachment. Blue oceans, green land masses, white clouds swirling in atmospheric patterns. It seemed so peaceful, so innocent. It wouldn't remain that way for long. The pods screamed through the sky, leaving trails of fire as they descended. The impact when they landed was tremendous, each pod creating a crater in the earth, sending shock waves radiating outward. Vegeta's pod had landed in a remote area, mostly empty wasteland with rocky formations jutting up from barren ground. The pod hatch hissed open, and Vegeta emerged, stepping out onto Earth for the first time. He took a moment to adjust to the planet's conditions. The gravity was significantly lower than what he was accustomed to, making him feel light, almost as if he could float away. The air was rich with oxygen, fresh and clean, in a way that recycled ship air never was. Under different circumstances, it might have been pleasant. Nappa's pod had landed nearby, and the large Saiyan emerged moments later, stretching his massive frame and grinning with anticipation. "This is Earth?" Nappa rumbled, looking around at the landscape. "Doesn't look like much." Vegeta activated his scouter, the device covering his left eye and reading the power levels in the surrounding area. Immediately, several readings appeared, scattered across the planet. Some were remarkably low, barely worth noticing. But a very few, registered at levels that actually qualified as noteworthy. "They're already gathering," Vegeta observed, his voice calm. "The Earth warriors. They know we're here." Indeed, the scouter showed several power signatures converging on their location from different directions. The Earthlings were coming to meet them, to fight them, to defend their planet. It was almost admirable in a futile sort of way. "Should we go to them?" Nappa asked, cracking his knuckles in anticipation. "No," Vegeta replied, a cold smile playing at his lips. "Let them come to us. Let them see what they're up against. Let the fear settle in before we destroy them." The two Saiyans stood in the crater created by their landing pods, waiting. Around them, the Earth was quiet, peaceful. Birds flew in the distance. The wind rustled through sparse vegetation. It was the calm before a terrible storm. Minutes passed, and then the Earth warriors began to arrive. They came from the sky, flying through the air using techniques that allowed them to manipulate their energy for flight. Vegeta watched them approach with interest, his scouter analyzing each one. There were several of them, a mixed group that seemed almost comical in their diversity. A short, bald man with 6 dots on his forehead, a 3-eyed human with a stoic expression, a small child who appeared to be half human and something else, a green-skinned Namekian who Vegeta recognized as similar to the one from the reports of Raditz's death, and others, each with their own distinct appearance and energy signature. They landed at a distance from the Saiyans, spreading out in a loose formation. Their faces showed determination, fear carefully masked behind warriors' resolve. They knew they were facing something dangerous, something beyond their normal experience. The confrontation began not with violence, but with words. The bald human, who appeared to be one of the leaders of this group, stepped forward slightly, his voice carrying across the distance between the two groups. "Leave Earth now," he called out, his tone firm despite the tremor of fear underneath. "You're not welcome here. We won't let you hurt anyone or take the Dragon Balls." Vegeta regarded the speaker with amusement, his arms crossed over his chest. These Earthlings had courage, he would grant them that. Foolish courage, but courage nonetheless. "You won't let us?" Vegeta repeated, his voice dripping with mockery. "Tell me, weakling, do you have any idea of the difference in our strength? My companion and I have conquered hundreds of worlds. We've destroyed civilizations that were far more advanced than yours. What makes you think you can stop us?" The 3-eyed warrior spoke next, his voice calmer, more measured. "We've trained for this. We've prepared for a year, knowing you would come. We're stronger than we were when your companion came to Earth." "Raditz!" Nappa laughed, a booming sound that echoed across the wasteland. "That weakling? He was the lowest class of Saiyan warrior. If he's your measuring stick, You're even more pathetic than we thought." Vegeta raised his hand, silencing Nappa. His eyes scanned the group of Earth warriors, his scouter providing a constant stream of information about their power levels. They had indeed grown stronger than they had been during Raditz's visit. Some of them registered power levels in the thousands, which was impressive for such a backwater planet. But it wasn't enough. It would never be enough. "I'll make you an offer," Vegeta said, his voice carrying a false generosity. "Tell us where the Dragon Balls are, and we'll make your deaths quick. Resist, and we'll destroy your entire planet, slowly, making you watch as everything you know turns to ash." The Namekian stepped forward, his expression hard. "We'd rather die fighting than submit to tyrants like you." "So be it," Vegeta replied, and the battle began. Nappa moved first, his massive form lunging forward with surprising speed. He targeted the closest warriors, his energy exploding outward in a devastating wave. The Earth fighters scattered, moving quickly to avoid the attack, and then they countered, firing their own energy blasts at the large Saiyan. Vegeta remained where he was, watching with detached interest as Nappa engaged the Earth warriors. This was a test, he decided. Let Nappa handle the weaklings and see what techniques they employed, what tricks they might have prepared. Vegeta would observe, learn, and then when necessary, he would step in and end it. The battle was chaotic and intense. Nappa fought with brutal efficiency, using his superior strength and durability to overwhelm the Earth warriors. But they were coordinated, working together, covering each other's weaknesses and creating openings for attacks. It was clear they had trained as a unit, developed strategies and combination techniques. The three-eyed warrior, whose name Vegeta heard called as Tien, used a strange technique that created multiple copies of himself, surrounding Nappa and attacking from all angles. The Namekian, called Piccolo, could extend his arms to incredible lengths, striking from unexpected distances. The small half-breed child, Gohan, would fire bursts of energy that seemed disproportionately powerful for his size and apparent age. But despite their coordination, despite their techniques and preparation, they were losing. Nappa was simply too strong, too durable, too experienced. He weathered their attacks with minimal damage and responded with devastating force. When he struck one of the warriors, they flew backward like ragdolls, crashing into rock formations or cratering the ground. Vegeta watched it all with growing boredom. These Earth warriors were more skilled than he had expected, but skill could only compensate for a power gap up to a certain point. Beyond that point, technique became irrelevant. Power was all that mattered. One of the warriors, a human with scars on his face, called Yamcha, attempted a surprise attack on Nappa from behind. It was a well-executed maneuver, his energy focused into a concentrated blast. But Nappa simply turned and swatted the man aside, then followed up with a devastating energy wave that killed the human instantly. The death of their companion enraged the remaining Earth warriors. They attacked with renewed fury, abandoning some of their caution in favor of aggressive offense. But rage without power was useless, and Nappa continued to dominate the battle. Then something unexpected happened. The small child, Gohan, in a moment of extreme emotion over the death of the scarred warrior, released a burst of power that actually managed to hurt Nappa. The energy blast struck the large Saiyan in his armor, cracking it, sending him staggering backward. Vegeta's eyes narrowed. The child's power level had spiked dramatically, far beyond what it had been moments before. Interesting. These Earthlings could indeed raise their power dramatically when under stress. More interesting was the child himself. According to the scouter data and the resemblance, this child had to be related to Kakarot, a half-breed Saiyan. Nappa, angered by the child's attack, prepared to kill him, but the Namekian intervened, taking a devastating blow meant for the boy. The Green Warrior fell, critically injured, gasping his final words to the child about some training and potential. The Earth Warriors were falling, their numbers dwindling, their strength fading. It was only a matter of time before Nappa eliminated them all. But time, it seemed, was about to run out. Vegeta's scouter suddenly registered a new power level approaching from the distance. It was massive, far beyond any of the other Earth Warriors, rising as it drew closer. The signature was unmistakable, carrying that distinct Saiyan energy pattern. "Kakarot," Vegeta said, a smile crossing his face. Finally. The figure appeared in the sky, descending rapidly toward the battlefield. He was dressed in an orange and blue jai, his hair standing upright in the characteristic Saiyan style, though it was wilder, less refined than Vegeta's. His face bore a gentle expression that seemed completely at odds with his Saiyan heritage, but the power radiating from him was undeniable. This was Kakarot, or Goku, as the Earthlings called him, the low-class Saiyan warrior who had been sent to Earth as an infant and somehow survived to become this planet's protector. Goku landed between the remaining Earth warriors and the two Saiyan invaders, his eyes taking in the devastation, the bodies of his fallen friends, the injured survivors. Pain flashed across his features, but underneath it was something harder, something that reminded Vegeta that regardless of how this Saiyan had been raised, he still had warrior blood in his veins. "You must be Vegeta," Goku said, his voice calm despite the tension of the moment. "And you killed my friends." "I haven't done anything yet," Vegeta replied, gesturing to Nappa. "That was all my companions' work. Though I would have done the same. They were in our way, and they were weak. The weak exist to be crushed by the strong. Surely even you, raised among these primitives, understand that basic truth." Goku's expression hardened. "I understand that you're wrong. Strength isn't about hurting others. It's about protecting what matters." Vegeta laughed, genuinely amused. How touching. The low-class warrior has developed a philosophy. "Tell me, Kakarot, do you even know what you are? You're a Saiyan, a member of the proudest warrior race in the universe. You were sent to this planet to conquer it, to eliminate its population, and instead, you've become their defender. It's pathetic." "My name is Goku," the Earth-raised Saiyan replied, his energy beginning to rise, visible as a white aura flickering around his body. "And I don't care what you think I should be. I know who I am." The scouter on Vegeta's face began registering Goku's rising power level. The numbers climbed steadily, surpassing the other Earth warriors, approaching levels that actually commanded respect. 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000. Vegeta's smile faded slightly. This was unexpected. A low-class Saiyan shouldn't be capable of reaching such levels. But the scouter didn't lie. Kakarot was powerful, far more powerful than he had any right to be. "Nappa," Vegeta said, his voice sharp. "Fall back. This one is mine." The large Saiyan looked disappointed, but obeyed, stepping away from the remaining Earth warriors and moving to the side. Vegeta stepped forward, his own aura beginning to manifest, white energy crackling around his body. The two Saiyans faced each other across the scarred battlefield, the last son of Earth's protectors and the prince of a destroyed race. In that moment, all the preparation, all the training, all the waiting came down to this single confrontation. They moved simultaneously, their speed so great that they seemed to simply vanish from where they stood and reappear in the air, fists meeting with a shock wave that rippled across the landscape. They broke apart and engaged again and again, a blur of motion too fast for normal eyes to follow. Vegeta fought with technical precision, each strike calculated, each movement efficient. This was how a true warrior fought, with discipline and control born from years of constant battle. But Goku fought with an instinctive fluidity that frustrated Vegeta. The Earth-raised Saiyan seemed to move without thinking, his body responding to attacks before they fully developed, finding openings that shouldn't exist. They exchanged hundreds of blows in mere seconds, neither gaining a clear advantage. Vegeta launched a barrage of energy blasts, and Goku weaved between them, closing the distance to deliver a powerful kick that Vegeta barely blocked. Goku fired his own energy attack at point-blank range, and Vegeta countered with his own, the two blasts meeting and exploding in a sphere of light that forced both warriors backward. Vegeta landed on a rocky outcropping, breathing hard, his mind racing. Kakarot was stronger than expected, much stronger. But Vegeta still had advantages, still had techniques and transformations that this low-class warrior wouldn't know about. "You're good, Kakarot," Vegeta admitted, his voice carrying across the distance. "Better than any low-class Saiyan has a right to be. But you're still below me. Let me show you the true power of Saiyan royalty." Vegeta began to power up, his aura intensifying, energy crackling around him like lightning. His power level climbed higher, surpassing anything he had shown so far. The ground beneath him cracked and crumbled from the pressure. Rocks lifted into the air, suspended by the sheer force of his energy. But Goku responded in kind, his own power rising to match Vegeta's increase. The Earth-raised Saiyan gritted his teeth, his muscles tensing, and his energy exploded outward in a brilliant white aura that lit up the darkening sky. The battle resumed with even greater intensity. Mountains crumbled from the shockwaves of their collisions. The very air seemed to burn from the energy they released. Vegeta used techniques he had perfected over years of conquest, energy attacks with enough power to destroy cities. Goku countered with Earth-developed techniques, like the Kamehameha wave, a concentrated beam of energy that forced Vegeta to dodge rather than block. Despite his pride, despite his royal blood, despite his lifelong training, Vegeta found himself being matched, even occasionally surpassed, by this low-class warrior. It was infuriating, impossible, and yet it was happening. In desperation, as the battle turned against him, Vegeta made a decision. He would use the Saiyan's ultimate technique, the Great Ape Transformation. When a Saiyan with a tail looked at the full moon, they would transform into a massive ape-like creature, their power multiplying tenfold. It was a devastating transformation, though it came with reduced mental clarity. Vegeta created an artificial moon, a ball of energy that mimicked the specific wavelengths needed to trigger the transformation. He looked up at it, allowing the energy to wash over him, and his body began to change. He grew, his muscles expanding, his body stretching upward to massive proportions. Brown fur sprouted across his skin. His face extended into a snout filled with fangs. Within seconds, Vegeta had transformed into a great ape, towering over the battlefield, 50 feet tall. His power increased tenfold. The great ape form of Vegeta was a terrifying sight to behold. His massive frame blocked out the stars, his red eyes glowing with primal fury. Each breath from his enormous lungs created winds that scattered debris across the battlefield. When he roared, the sound was deafening, a declaration of absolute power that echoed for miles. The remaining Earth warriors looked up at the transformed Saiyan prince with despair written across their faces. How could they fight something so massive, so powerful? Vegeta's strength had already been beyond them, and now it had multiplied 10 times over. The situation had gone from desperate to hopeless. Goku stared up at the great ape, his mind racing. He had heard stories about this transformation from his friends, about how his own Saiyan heritage had caused him to transform as a child, leading to tragedy. But he had lost his tail long ago, cutting off access to this power. Vegeta, however, still possessed his tail, and he had used it to devastating effect. The great ape Vegeta attacked with devastating force. His massive fists came down like meteors, cratering the earth with each strike. He fired energy blasts from his mouth, enormous spheres of destruction that obliterated everything they touched. The landscape was reshaped by his rampage, mountains leveled, valleys created, the very geography of the area altered by his power. Goku fought back with everything he had, dodging the massive attacks, firing energy blasts at the creature's vulnerable points, trying to find some way to turn the tide. But it was like trying to fight a natural disaster. The great ape's durability was immense, his thick fur and massive body absorbing attacks that would have severely injured Vegeta in his normal form. The Earth Warriors, recognizing that Goku couldn't win this fight alone, formulated a desperate plan. The weakness of the great ape transformation was the tail. If they could sever it, Vegeta would return to his normal form, his power would drop back to manageable levels, and they might have a chance. But getting close enough to cut the tail was nearly impossible. The great ape Vegeta was wild, but not mindless. Some part of his consciousness remained, enough to protect his weak point, to keep his tail away from attackers. The battle raged on, and slowly, inevitably, Goku began to tire. He had already expended enormous energy fighting Vegeta in his normal form. Now, facing this transformed monster, his strength was reaching its limits. His movements became slower, his attacks less precise. Blood ran from various wounds. His GI was torn and tattered, and his breathing came in ragged gasps. Vegeta, sensing victory, pressed his advantage. His massive hands came together, and he began gathering energy for an attack that would end everything. A sphere of destructive power formed between his palms, growing larger and larger, enough energy to destroy not just Goku, but the entire region, possibly the entire planet. But in that moment of seeming triumph, something unexpected happened. Goku's son, the half-breed child Gohan, who had been thought defeated, rose from where he had fallen. The boy looked up at the artificial moon that maintained Vegeta's transformation, and his own Saiyan blood responded. Gohan transformed into a great ape himself, his smaller frame expanding into another massive creature. But unlike Vegeta, who retained some control over his transformed state, Gohan lost himself completely to the primal fury of the great ape. The child became a rampaging beast, attacking everything around him, including Vegeta. The two great apes collided with tremendous force, their battle shaking the earth itself. Vegeta, caught off guard by this sudden development, found himself on the defensive. The child's ape form was fueled by pure instinct and rage, attacking with wild abandon that was difficult to predict or counter. In the chaos of this titanic struggle, one of the Earth Warriors, a man named Yajirobe, who had been hiding and waiting for an opportunity, made his move. With a sword in hand, he leaped at Vegeta's exposed tail and sliced through it with a desperate strike. The effect was immediate and devastating. Vegeta's great ape form began to shrink, the transformation reversing as the tail, severed and falling to the ground, could no longer maintain the metamorphosis. Within seconds, Vegeta had returned to his normal size, his power dropping back to its base level. But the prince was not defeated yet. Wounded, exhausted, humiliated, but not defeated. He landed on the ground in a crater, his body battered and bleeding, his armor cracked and broken in places. Around him, The Earth warriors were in even worse condition, barely able to stand, let alone fight. Goku, using a technique that had pushed his body beyond its limits, was paralyzed and helpless. The other warriors were scattered, injured, some dying. By all rights, Vegeta should have still been able to kill them all, to complete his mission and claim victory. But his body betrayed him. The combination of the intense battle, the energy drain from the Great Ape transformation, and the shock of losing his tail had pushed him to his absolute limits. When he tried to stand, his legs trembled and gave out beneath him. When he tried to gather energy for an attack, only weak sparks flickered around his hands. The Earth warriors, seeing their chance, prepared to end it. They would kill Vegeta here and now, eliminate the threat he represented. But Goku, even in his paralyzed state, called out to them, asking for mercy, asking them to let Vegeta live. It was incomprehensible to Vegeta. He had come to their planet to steal their treasures and kill them all. He had murdered their friends. He had tried to destroy everything they cared about. And yet, this low-class Saiyan was asking them to spare him? Why? "I want to fight you again," Goku said, his voice strained but sincere. "When we're both at full strength. I want to see how strong you can become." It was the most Saiyan thing Goku had ever said, and despite everything, despite his humiliation and rage, Vegeta understood it. The desire to fight strong opponents, to test oneself against worthy rivals, was buried deep in their shared blood. The Earth warriors, reluctantly, agreed to honor Goku's wish. They let Vegeta crawl to his space pod, let him drag his broken body into the spherical vessel. As the pod lifted off, escaping Earth's gravity and launching into space, Vegeta sat in the cramped interior, his body racked with pain, his mind consumed with emotions he could barely process. He had been defeated. Him, Prince Vegeta, beaten by a low-class Saiyan warrior, raised on a backwater planet. The humiliation was worse than the physical pain, worse than the loss of his tail, worse than returning empty-handed without the Dragon Balls. But beneath the humiliation, beneath the rage and shame, something else stirred. A recognition, a realization. Kakarot had surpassed him, not through superior breeding or royal training, but through different methods, different philosophies. The Earth-raised Saiyan had found ways to push beyond normal limits, had developed techniques and achieved power levels that shouldn't have been possible for someone of his class, which meant that Vegeta's assumptions about power, about superiority, about the natural order of things might be incomplete, which meant there were paths to strength he hadn't considered, which meant he could become even stronger than he had imagined. As the pod hurtled through space, carrying him away from Earth, Vegeta made a silent vow. He would return. He would train harder than ever before. He would surpass Kakarot, prove his superiority, and claim his rightful place as the strongest Saiyan in existence. The defeat on Earth was not an ending. It was a beginning. The space pod drifted through the void, its occupant hovering between consciousness and oblivion. Vegeta's body was a map of injuries, every muscle aching, bones cracked, internal damage that would have killed a lesser being. But Saiyans were resilient, and Vegeta was the prince of that resilient race. He would survive, he would heal, and he would become stronger. The pod's automated systems had set a course for one of Frieza's outposts, a medical station where the Empire's soldiers could receive treatment after difficult missions. Vegeta drifted in and out of consciousness during the journey, his dreams haunted by images of the battle, of his transformation and defeat, of Kakarot's face as he asked for mercy. When the pod finally docked at the medical station, Vegeta was immediately placed in a rejuvenation tank, a medical device that accelerated healing through a combination of advanced technology and healing fluids. The prince floated in the green liquid, breathing through a mask, as his body slowly repaired itself. Days passed. Vegeta's consciousness floated in a strange space between waking and sleeping, where memories mixed with dreams and reality became fluid. He saw his father, King Vegeta, standing before Frieza's throne. He saw Planet Vegeta exploding in the void. He saw Kakarot's gentle smile as he asked for mercy. And through it all, he felt the burning need to become stronger, to prove himself, to reclaim his pride. When Vegeta finally emerged from the rejuvenation tank, his body was fully healed. But more than that, he could feel it immediately. The Saiyan ability to grow stronger after recovering from near-death experiences had triggered. His power had increased significantly. The defeat on Earth, painful as it had been, had made him stronger. He stood in the medical bay, testing his restored body, feeling the energy flowing through him. Yes, he was more powerful now than he had been before Earth. But was it enough? Would it ever be enough? It was then that Vegeta overheard a conversation between two of Frieza's soldiers, discussing recent events. The Emperor himself was traveling to a planet called Namek, the original homeworld of the Namekian species. He was seeking the Dragon Balls that existed on that world, the original set that had inspired Earth's own Dragon Balls. Vegeta's mind raced. Frieza was going after the Dragon Balls himself. The Emperor, who already possessed overwhelming power, was seeking immortality. If Frieza succeeded, if he became immortal, then Vegeta's dream of one day surpassing and defeating him would become impossible. An immortal Frieza could never be overthrown. But this was also an opportunity. If Vegeta could reach Namek first, if he could gather the Dragon Balls before Frieza, then he could claim immortality for himself. An immortal Vegeta could train forever, growing stronger and stronger, until not even Frieza could stand against him. The decision was made in an instant. Vegeta would go to Namek. He would beat Frieza to the Dragon Balls. He would claim immortality, and finally, be free. Vegeta stole a space pod with a better navigation system than his old one and set course for Namek. The journey would take weeks, but every moment brought him closer to his destiny. During the flight, Vegeta trained as much as the pod's limited space allowed, practicing energy manipulation, meditation to control his power more precisely, mental exercises to push his limits. When he finally arrived at Namek, the planet that greeted him was beautiful in a way that reminded him painfully of the old legends of Planet Vegeta before it became a harsh warrior world. Namek was green and blue, with vast oceans and continents covered in vegetation. The sky was blue-green, and the planet had 3 suns that bathed everything in perpetual daylight. But Vegeta wasn't there for sightseeing. His scouter immediately began picking up power signatures scattered across the planet. Some were Namekian, relatively low, but more substantial than typical civilians. Others were clearly members of Frieza's forces, already on the planet and searching for the Dragon Balls. Vegeta's strategy was simple but risky. He would avoid Frieza directly, while gathering the Dragon Balls from Namekian villages and stealing them from Frieza's soldiers. He would use his knowledge of the Empire's operations and his superior combat skills to stay ahead of both the Namekians and Frieza's forces. The prince descended to Namek's surface, landing in a remote area away from the major power signatures. He emerged from his pod into the warm, humid air of the planet, his boots touching alien soil. Somewhere on this world were the Dragon Balls. Somewhere on this world was Frieza. And somewhere in the near future was Vegeta's destiny. He began his hunt immediately, flying low and fast across Namek's surface, following the scouter's readings toward the nearest Namekian settlement. When he arrived, he found a village of simple dome-shaped structures, white buildings that seemed to grow organically from the ground. The Namekians themselves were peaceful, their power levels low, their society clearly non-militaristic. Vegeta had no qualms about what he had to do. He descended on the village like a storm, demanding they surrender their Dragon Ball. When the village elder refused, trying to protect his people, Vegeta demonstrated the vast gap in their power with casual cruelty. He didn't kill them all, not yet. He needed them alive to potentially reveal information, but he made it clear that resistance was futile. The Namekians, faced with overwhelming force, revealed the location where they had hidden their Dragon Ball. Vegeta claimed it, the orange sphere with red stars feeling almost alive in his hands. 1 down, 6 to go. But Vegeta quickly discovered he wasn't the only one hunting Dragon Balls with ruthless efficiency. Frieza's elite soldiers were doing the same thing, hitting Namekian villages, extracting information, claiming the mystical orbs. And worse, Frieza had brought his absolute strongest warriors, the Ginyu Force, an elite team of 5 fighters who were among the most powerful beings in the universe. Vegeta found himself in a deadly game, racing against Frieza's forces while trying to remain undetected by the Emperor himself. He stole Dragon Balls from Frieza's soldiers, hiding them in remote locations across Namek. He fought when necessary, his increased power allowing him to defeat mid-level members of Frieza's army with relative ease. But the situation on Namek became increasingly complicated. Vegeta wasn't the only unexpected player in this deadly game. Kakarot's allies from Earth had arrived on the planet as well, seeking to use the Namekian Dragon Balls to resurrect their friends who had died during the Saiyan invasion. The small bald human, Krillin, and Goku's son, Gohan, were on Namek, creating even more chaos in the search for the Dragon Balls. Initially, Vegeta considered the Earth Warriors as enemies, obstacles to eliminate. But as the situation evolved, as Frieza's forces closed in, something unprecedented happened. Vegeta formed a temporary alliance with the very people he had tried to kill on Earth. The alliance was born of pure necessity. Frieza's power was beyond any of them individually. The Ginyu Force was too strong for Vegeta to handle alone, and the Earth Warriors, despite their strength, were hopelessly outmatched. Together, sharing information and resources, they had a slim chance of survival and perhaps even success. It was a strange experience for Vegeta, working alongside others rather than commanding or fighting them. He didn't like it, didn't trust it, and made his contempt for the arrangement abundantly clear. But he also wasn't stupid. Pride was important, but survival was more important. And beyond survival was the goal: immortality through the Dragon Balls. The situation deteriorated rapidly. The Ginyu Force arrived and demonstrated power levels that shocked even Vegeta. Captain Ginyu himself possessed a power level of 120,000, far beyond anything Vegeta had achieved. The prince fought members of the Ginyu Force and barely survived, saved only by the unexpected arrival of Goku, who had been training during his journey to Namek and had achieved incredible new levels of power. Vegeta watched in disbelief as Kakarot defeated the Ginyu Force members one by one, his power having grown to levels that seemed impossible. The low-class Saiyan had surpassed him again, had reached heights that Vegeta, with all his royal blood and training, couldn't match. The humiliation burned, but there was no time to dwell on it, because Frieza himself had decided to stop playing games and handle matters personally. When Vegeta finally faced Frieza directly, it was nothing like he had imagined. For years, he had dreamed of this confrontation, of the moment when he would be strong enough to challenge the Tyrant who had destroyed his race. He had imagined it would be a true battle, a clash of titans where his superior strength would prevail. Instead, it was a massacre. Frieza, even in his first form, possessed power so far beyond Vegeta that it was almost laughable. The Emperor toyed with the Saiyan prince, allowing him to attack, to use his strongest techniques, only to demonstrate that none of it mattered. Every attack Vegeta launched was effortlessly deflected or absorbed. Every strategy he employed was anticipated and countered, and then Frieza transformed. The Emperor revealed that his current form was actually a suppressed state, that he possessed multiple transformations, each one increasing his power exponentially. With each transformation, Frieza became more monstrous, more powerful, more terrifying. Vegeta fought with everything he had, pushed himself beyond every limit, called upon every reserve of strength and pride. But it wasn't enough. It would never be enough. Frieza was on a completely different level, a tier of power that Vegeta couldn't reach, no matter how hard he tried. In the final confrontation, as Vegeta lay broken and dying from Frieza's brutal assault, something within the proud prince finally cracked. The walls he had built around his emotions, the mask of arrogance and superiority he had worn for so long, it all fell away. And underneath was pain, fear, and a desperate hope. As Goku arrived, having recovered from his own battles, Vegeta spoke to his fellow Saiyan with uncharacteristic honesty. He told Kakarot about their race, about Planet Vegeta's destruction, about Frieza's treachery. And he asked, almost begged, for Kakarot to defeat Frieza, to avenge the Saiyan race. "Please," Vegeta said, his voice barely a whisper, his pride finally, truly broken. "Beat him, Kakarot, for all the Saiyans he's killed, for our entire race. You have to win." Then Frieza killed him, casually, dismissively, erasing the prince of all Saiyans with a single blast. Vegeta's consciousness faded into darkness, his last thoughts a mixture of regret and hope. He had failed to protect his pride, failed to achieve his goals, failed to avenge his race. But perhaps Kakarot could succeed where he had failed. What Vegeta didn't witness, because he was dead, was the battle that followed. Frieza pushed Goku beyond his limits, and in doing so, triggered the transformation that had been legend for 1,000 years. Goku became a Super Saiyan, his hair turning gold, his power multiplying 50-fold, his eyes becoming teal with fury and determination. The Super Saiyan, the transformation Vegeta had dreamed about his entire life, the destiny he believed was his by right of royal blood, was achieved not by him, but by the low-class Saiyan he had looked down upon. If Vegeta had been alive to witness it, it might have destroyed him completely. But death, for Vegeta, was not the end. The Earth's Dragon Balls, gathered and used after the battle on Namek, included a wish that restored to life everyone killed by Frieza and his forces. Vegeta returned to life on Earth, transported there by the wish's magic, alive but forever changed. He had died. He had failed. He had seen the Super Saiyan transformation achieved by someone he considered inferior. Every foundation of his identity had been shaken. In the time that followed, Vegeta remained on Earth, not because he wanted to, but because he had nowhere else to go. Namek had been destroyed in the final battle between Goku and Frieza. The Frieza Force was in disarray. He was, once again, alone. But this time, something was different. Living among the Earth warriors, the people he had once tried to kill, Vegeta was exposed to something he had never truly experienced before: community. Not the rigid hierarchy of Saiyan society, or the fear-based structure of Frieza's empire, but genuine bonds between people who cared for each other. He trained obsessively, driven by the need to achieve the Super Saiyan transformation himself, to surpass Kakarot, to reclaim his pride. The woman named Bulma, brilliant and completely unafraid of him, provided him with resources, technology, and something else he didn't have a name for: purpose, perhaps, or the beginning of belonging. Years would pass. Vegeta would fight new enemies alongside the Earth Warriors. He would struggle with the Super Saiyan transformation, his pride and anger preventing him from achieving it, until he finally learned to let go, to fight not just for pride, but for others. He would eventually achieve the golden form, and then surpass it, reaching new heights of power. He would build a family, something he never imagined wanting. He would have a son, Trunks, and later a daughter, Bulla. He would form a bond with Bulma that was complicated and real, and nothing like what he had been taught relationships should be. He would never stop being prideful, never stop being competitive with Goku, never fully let go of his Saiyan nature. But he would change, slowly, incrementally, in ways that would have been unthinkable to the young prince who had watched his planet explode, or the warrior who had first come to Earth seeking immortality. Vegeta's journey was not a simple path from villain to hero. It was more complex than that, more human, despite his alien nature. He remained selfish and prideful, but he also became protective and loyal. He stayed arrogant, but he learned humility through repeated failures and unlikely victories. He was a warrior who discovered that strength came not just from training and pride, but from the connections forged with others, from fighting for something beyond himself. The prince of all Saiyans, last son of a destroyed race, found something on Earth that he had never truly had on his homeworld or in Frieza's empire. He found a home, not a place, but people, not subjects or servants, but equals and family. And though he would never admit it, never say the words out loud, somewhere deep inside, beneath all the pride and arrogance and Saiyan warrior spirit, Vegeta had found something more valuable than immortality, more powerful than any transformation. He had found belonging, and in the end, that made all the difference.